When Michael saw something small and dark desperately struggling in the center of the lake, his first thought was, probably a bird fell into the water. But what he pulled aboard his boat, barely breathing and freezing, turned out to be not a bird at all, and his actions became a legend that people still retell today. Michael Turner, a 63-year-old resident of the small town of Ely, Minnesota, lived the measured life of a hermit. This gray-haired man devoted his weekends to fishing on Bentside Lake, a 6,000-acre body of water known for its crystal-clear waters and abundance of northern pike. The lake was located 20 minutes' drive from home, and Michael knew every bend of it. On that July Sunday, the air was filled with the scent of pine needles and the freshness of morning fog. The water temperature held steady at 72 degrees, perfect conditions for fishing. Michael pushed his aluminum boat from shore and headed to his favorite spot at the lake's northern tip, where the depth reached 50 feet. The first 2 hours passed in familiar silence. Michael cast his line with live bait and waited patiently. The lake was mirror smooth, only occasionally rippled by a breeze disturbing the surface. A special forest quiet reigned around, the rustle of leaves, the distant tapping of a woodpecker, the splash of water against the boat's hull. Suddenly, a piercing cry rang out over the water. The sound was so desperate that Michael instantly straightened up, scanning the water's surface. The cry repeated, echoing off the opposite shore. 1,000 feet from him, at the edge of the reeds, the water was churning unusually. Something was thrashing in death agony, creating ripples on the surface. Michael unhesitatingly steered the boat in that direction, rowing with all his might. In 30 years of fishing this lake, he had never heard such sounds. Approaching, he saw a small fawn weakly struggling in the water. The animal was very young, no more than 2 weeks old, judging by its size and spotted coat. The little one had already exhausted its strength, its head going underwater again and again. Its eyes were closed, breathing labored. Michael understood it was a matter of minutes. He carefully brought the boat closer and scooped up the limp body with both hands. The fawn was surprisingly light, weighing about 15 pounds, but its fur was soaked and cold as ice. Placing the animal on the boat's bottom, Michael quickly removed his flannel shirt and wrapped the shivering body. The pulse was barely detectable, body temperature critically low. The experienced fisherman understood. Without immediate veterinary help, the fawn wouldn't survive. Abandoning all his gear, he turned the boat toward shore and began rowing with doubled force. Every second was precious. Michael whispered soothing words, checking the animal's breathing. Reaching shore, he scooped up the fawn and ran to his pickup. Wrapping the baby in a warm blanket, he tore off toward Ely, where the nearest veterinary clinic was located. The journey took 17 minutes, the longest in Michael's life. He raced along the winding road, exceeding the speed limit and glancing at his motionless passenger. The fawn lay on the seat, its breathing growing weaker. At one point, Michael thought he was too late, but a weak trembling of the chest gave hope. The clinic was located on the town's outskirts in a small red brick building. Dr. Sarah Evans, a veterinarian with 20 years' experience, took emergency cases even on weekends. Michael burst into the reception area shouting, "Help! An animal is drowning!" Dr. Evans instantly assessed the situation and ordered resuscitation equipment prepared. The fawn was placed on a sterile table under powerful lamps. Dr. Evans put on gloves and began emergency diagnostics. The stethoscope showed a critically weak heartbeat, 42 beats per minute instead of the normal 120. Body temperature was only 93 degrees. Most frightening, water was sloshing in the lungs. The next 20 minutes were decisive. Dr. Evans used a special suction device to remove water from the respiratory passages, then injected adrenaline to stimulate cardiac activity. Medical devices beeped monotonously, recording each beat of the weakening heart. Michael stood nearby, clenching his fists and silently praying. Suddenly, the fawn twitched weakly. Its eyelids fluttered, breathing became rhythmic. Dr. Evans smiled for the first time. He's fighting. That's a good sign." She set up an infrared lamp for warming and administered saline solution through a thin needle. After half an hour, the fawn slowly opened its eyes. Large brown eyes looked confused, but there was life in them already. Dr. Evans checked reflexes. They were weak, but present. "You literally snatched him from death's jaws," she told Michael. "Another 10 minutes and we couldn't have done anything." The fawn was kept under observation until evening. Dr. Evans explained that the next 72 hours would be critical. If pneumonia didn't develop, chances of recovery would be 90%. She offered Michael temporary guardianship of the animal until full recovery. Michael agreed without hesitation. Dr. Evans gave detailed instructions, feeding every 2 hours with special formula, maintaining body temperature, regular breathing checks. She warned that the fawn couldn't be released into the wild immediately. A minimum of 2 weeks would be needed for rehabilitation. At home, Michael set up an improvised pen in the living room. He covered the floor with soft blankets, installed a heating lamp, and prepared bottles with deer milk substitute. He decided to name the fawn Willow after the willow thickets by the lake where she was found. The first days, Willow was very weak. By the 5th day, Willow began showing activity. She stood up on trembling legs by herself and took several uncertain steps. Her eyes became bright and curious. She began exploring the room, sniffing furniture and playing with an old newspaper. After 10 days, Willow had fully recovered. She bounced merrily around the house, played with a ball, and demanded attention. But Michael understood. It was time to return to the wild. He contacted the Bearhead Lake Preserve, located 25 miles from Ely. Ranger Rachel Myers, a wildlife rehabilitation specialist, agreed to take Willow. She explained that the preserve had a special adaptation program for orphaned babies. The fawn would be placed in a semi-free enclosure where she could gradually get used to wildlife. On Saturday morning, Michael fed Willow one last time and placed her in a portable carrier. The journey to the preserve passed in silence. Both understood this was goodbye. At the entrance, Rachel met them with 2 assistants. Willow was placed in a spacious enclosure where 3 other fawns, found in similar circumstances, were already grazing. Michael watched as Willow cautiously approached her fellow creatures. An adult female serving as surrogate mother sniffed her and friendly licked her forehead. The story of rescuing the little fawn reminds us of life's fragility and the power of human compassion. One moment of attention to another's trouble can change 2 lives, both the saved and the saver.